Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapclis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million-dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo+Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow. Welcome to the podcast, Jennifer Hale.
Oh, thank you, Nico. I'm so happy that our paths crossed. Shout out to Mindset Mary who brought us together. And I just love the little synchronicities, huge synchronicities and serendipity since we met. I'm so grateful to know you.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, we just did a podcast on your side and got to share a lot of amazing things. But we've just known each other for a week or two. Shout out, like you said, Mary, Mindset Mary, and you drastically had a big impact on my life already, and the people you've connected me with. And I was so impressed with how you operate because I'm a big connector and doing three-way introductions and all that stuff too. When I saw you doing it on our call, like you connect me with like three people, I was like, whoa, this is another level, and it's really impressive. And then just to hear like about all your travels and it all comes from just like your beautiful heart. So really, really grateful that I've met you. I'm excited that we have you on the podcast now. I get to hear a little bit more about your story and just all your wisdom. I feel like you just have all these little things. Something I was telling you about tech earlier, you're like, yeah, I got an ancient prayer that can solve everything. So you're just a ball of wisdom. So I'm excited to hang out with you for a little bit here.
Oh, thank you, Nico. Yeah, I just came from a lunch here in Austin where I just arrived, and I was talking about why I have all these tools, right? So as I was talking to my lunch companions about it, I was like, people say, why do you spend 2 hours a day in meditation and reflection, and why do you have 183 tools? And I'm going to tell you and your audience a secret, Nico. It's so I don't destroy myself in the world, and it's out of survival because
Mhm.
everything I do now, whether it's connecting with people, whether it's how I travel, the practices I use, it all came out of survival and learning how to be a better human. I mean, isn't that what we're all here for? Like, what if we could all just do better at humaning? I think the world might do better.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I feel like we all can do a lot better at being humans. And I agree. Like I put together a lot of tools myself. I showed you some of them. And really it's just to help me become a better version of myself. And I was like, oh, I think other people could as well. But it's like if you're not intentional about utilizing these type of tools, then you just kind of start showing up to life randomly. And we all know what happens when that is. You're kind of just a leaf in the wind at that point, taking whatever life gives you instead of making a choice like we talked about on your podcast.
Yeah, 100%. And shout out to your work at Vision Espresso. I was just telling Nico, we did an episode you'll be able to find on Super Connections, which is our podcast. I think it's coming out on July 3rd, if I recall correctly. And Nico created like a little sample for me of my Vision Espresso, and I played it for so many people. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, because I'm a huge fan of Think and Grow Rich. Another friend of mine, Poppy Denuza, we have to get Poppy on the show, who wrote the new
Yeah.
book called How to Manifest Anything You Can Imagine. I love all this, but your Vision Espresso, Nico, is like, boom, next level. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we've been working hard at it and it's been a journey, so we appreciate you acknowledging it.
Yeah, and that's what we're all here for. Is like so many people are afraid, Nico. I think of technology right now. There's so many people doom scrolling and doomsday predictions. Will AI take over the world? And it's like anything. We can make anything our friend. I was just listening to a beautiful book yesterday on the plane from London to Austin. It's called Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, which is one of my favorite tools. Now, ironically, I've been using this tool. Anybody can go to the website and get a free profile on genekeys.com. Yet I had never read the book. And as I started to deep dive into the book, I was like, wow, this is so powerful. It's not the areas that we're good at that are going to define our life. It's the shadow parts that we're unwilling to look at. And what if we could peel back those shadows and illuminate those shadows and embrace and dance with them? Then it's from that place, rather than feeling good about all the work we've already done, what are the parts of ourselves that we're still not willing to acknowledge? One of my favorite Kabbalistic tools is something called global transformation. And it basically says something to the effect of, if you have a homeless person who needs $5 and all you have is 5 cents, you can only give him what you have. And the same is true of us as human beings. We can only give others what we have ourselves. And there's a part of this technology, this global transformation, 72 names of God technology I use, that says if you have any doubt that there's still work left to be done, note that any evil we see out in the world is a reflection of the evil that still remains hidden within our own hearts. And
Mm.
so I'm always looking at, if I find myself judging someone or something or wanting to point the finger of blame, then when I'm aware enough, I just drop into, wow, where is that evident in my life where I've been unwilling to see or acknowledge it?
Mm. That ultimate personal responsibility. Because the world is ultimately just a mirror of what's going on internally, exactly what you're saying. But that's so good because I even catch myself even earlier today, I'm working over in our clubhouse area and people are being loud and noisy and I was like getting frustrated. But now when you say that, I'm like, okay, where is that in me? Because it's that personal responsibility, and I think that's a huge part of being of the humaning is looking within and seeing the parts of ourselves that we can love more whole and complete.
Yeah, and if I may give a real life example of this, my business partner, Julian Adler, was originally my business coach and helped me to exit my first company years ago. And he taught me so many tools. One of my favorite tools he taught me is called the drama triangle. Have you heard of this one?
No, I haven't.
So I remember I was giving a speech in DC probably 8 years ago or so, and I was teaching this concept called the drama triangle. And it's this idea that you have the hero, the victim, and the perpetrator. Did you ever see an old cartoon? It was called Rocky and Bullwinkle. It was like a
Yeah.
popular cartoon. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you'd have like the mountaineer, Dudley Do-Right, the mountaineer who's the hero, who's always coming in to save Nell, who's the victim, who's being tied to the train tracks. And then you have Snidely Whiplash, the horrible, villain who's always tying Nell to the train tracks, right? And so in business, I'll often teach a class around this about the hero, victim, perpetrator. And as I was speaking on the stage in DC, I was saying, okay, where can you see that you've been the hero, the victim, or the perpetrator at any point in your life?
Mm.
And so I break people off into groups. There's like 300 people in the room, and everybody shares at their tables. And so I said, okay, would anybody like to share what they got out of it or where you've seen which one of these you are? And it was so profound, Nico. This guy raises his hand and shares, and they're all a bunch of people who run law firms. And the guy says, Jennifer, I can see where I was not only the hero, but I was also the perpetrator and the victim. And he gave this beautiful example where he said a couple of Fridays before this conference we were at, he said he was trying to save money, right? Like he wanted to be the hero and save the law firm more money. So
Mm.
at the 11th hour, he runs out and saves them $1,000 by getting them a better contract. So he's the hero. Well, now it's that Friday, and he has to stay till midnight that night in order to be able to get the new deal like finished and done, right? So he's the victim, but he's also the perpetrator who created it for himself. So if we ever see that we're being the hero, the victim, or the perpetrator, then the only way to extricate ourselves from the drama triangle is accountability. If we take radical accountability for our actions, rather than being the scarecrow and blaming and pointing towards other, that's when freedom opens up, is when nothing is ever happening to us. How can we be radically accountable for every action we take or don't take?
So good. It's so
I don't know where
good.
that story came from. I haven't told that story in ages.
But yeah, I mean, it's wow. So you're saying that it is when it's all three, or is it just it can be whenever it's
Yeah,
one?
you could be any one of them. Like you could be like, for example, you in the room in the clubhouse, right? Earlier, you're the victim. You're like, oh, this sucks. Everybody sucks. Why are they all being so loud? So you're in victim in that mode. Or
Mhm.
sometimes we're the perpetrator where we're forcing our will upon somebody else. or sometimes we're the hero, where it's like, this is actually so powerful. One of my favorite podcasts I listened to is a teacher of mine, David Guillaume. It's called the David Guillaume Podcast. And he did a really powerful episode a few weeks back about how so many of us, we create circumstances in our life, Nico, where say we have a lot of money, we've made a lot of money and lost a lot of money, or we might have a great relationship, but then it falls apart. Well, we're constantly doing that hero thing where it's like we want to save something. And so we want to break it down and rebuild it because if we have all the wealth in the world, then there's nothing to work towards. So we're afraid of being bored. So we, at a subconscious level, destroy relationships, money, opportunities just so we can come in and be the hero and rebuild it again. And we wind up getting caught in this trauma triangle.
It's these patterns that just run deep. What would you say to like someone that has those patterns and have those deep patterns and they're doing their best to become more aware, but they're still continuing to run those patterns?
Great question is that they're always going to be there. This is the thing that I have found. How often we live there is our choice. They're always going to be there. When we're hungry, tired, angry, whatever, emotional, that's where they tend to emerge the most, and we have less capacity for resilience. But the more that we begin to do the work, we bring our awareness to our behaviors, then when we do fall into the hero, the victim, or the perpetrator, it tends to be a shorter time where we start to perpetrate and we're like, oh, wait, that's that thing I'm doing. So it's not to say that you're ever going to be perfect and live a perfect life where you're never going to do any of those. It's how consciously aware can you live your life and be resilient and bounce back when you fall into one of those paradigms.
I'm hearing awareness.
Yeah, that's it. It's awareness.
And so it's interesting you talked about earlier in the in our conversation here that you meditate for 2 hours. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so about, gosh, 13 years ago, one of our team members at the first company that I was building had done it her whole life. Her parents had done it, and I had never heard of transcendental meditation. Have you heard of that before?
Yep.
So that's the methodology I first started learning. And I'll tell you frankly, Nico, the first time I ever tried meditating, I remember I was like 22 years old and I love to get a massage. I love to get a massage once a week. It's like my favorite thing I've done since I was about 20 years old. And there was this massage therapist that when I was in my 20s, I would go see. And I remember her sitting there and I'm about to get a massage from her 2 decades ago, and she says, Jen, I just need you to meditate for 30 seconds to a minute before the massage, and it'll be 10 times better. And I was like, girl, are you crazy? Do you know how busy it is in my head? I can't sit quietly for like 2 seconds, let alone 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, like 13 years later, I start learning how to meditate, and it was life changing. So I always begin every day with a whole myriad of things. I mean, I could get into it, but from journaling, non-dominant hand journaling, dominant hand journaling, inner child work, heart focused breathing, and meditation. So I start my day with that. And then throughout the day, I'll periodically drop in and I'll do additional meditations because we as humans are like our cell phones. If we have a cell phone and we use it all day and we don't recharge it, it's going to be drained by the end of the day. The same is true of us as humans. That's why doing breathwork techniques from box breathing, vagal nerve breathing, heart focused breathing by heart math, meditative techniques, dropping in periodically throughout the day proactively instead of waiting for that moment where you're about to lose your cool and blow up at a friend, a lover, a family member. If you can proactively remember to sprinkle throughout your day little tools like breath work, meditation, then you become more resilient and have greater capacity for accessing your higher brain function, for compassion, kindness, creativity. But the more we live in that reactive state, that's where we wind up getting into arguments and causing ourselves and our loved ones pain and making bad business choices. So
Hmm.
how can we live a proactive rather than a reactive life?
Ooh. So you're doing all those all throughout the day. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, all throughout the day. So I normally, my normal morning practice is about, depends on, like today was a full 2 hours probably. On some days when I travel, I have to cut down my morning practice to an hour and then I'll periodically meditate. I don't drive, so it does make it easy because every time I'm in the back of an Uber, I have a list of like a playlist. I have my 40-minute meditations, my 20-minute meditations, my 10-minute meditations. And so then after I do my morning meditation, I tend to sprinkle in other meditations throughout the day.
Wow. That's that's a commitment to yourself. I love it. What time do you wake up?
Whatever time my body wakes me up. Normally, it's just I am in harmony with my body and I try to get at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep almost every single night.
That's amazing.
And it's not for everybody. I mean, we could get into the back end of it of, human design. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but human design says there are certain types that need more sleep than others. I'm one of those types. I'm the 20% of the world that's projectors. There are other types, 70% of the world are generators and manifesting generators, which a good majority of those can actually get by on 4 to 6 hours of sleep. I am not that person. I know that about myself, so you can go to like jovianarchive.com and get your free human design profile and then throw it in ChatGPT and it'll interpret it for you.
Oh wow. Well, let's dive into your whole concept behind connections and why that's so important to you. Because now you obviously built a company around it. You were telling me a little bit about some new developments too, if we want to dive into that. But I just think it's so cool because what we're building with the Vision Espresso and the community is we're all about making curated connections so that it saves you time and money and energy and not you know getting into misaligned relationships. So it's quite ironic that you and I had that conversation and you've built out a beautiful company. So yeah, why don't you dive into like where that came from?
Yeah. So I built and sold a company in the legal recruiting space, and my gift has always been, Nico, cold reading people and then understanding who matches with who. It's really like an intuitive gift I have, is I can be like, oh, just like when I introduce you to three people,
Yeah.
that's my idea of fun. Like when I talk to people and I start hearing their hopes, wishes, dreams, names of the all the people I know, I'm like, oh, you need to meet, right? So I've always had that spidey sense and kind of gift around that. And then after we sold that company, my business coach, Julian, who helped me sell it, said, why don't we create an algorithm that mirrors your intuition for matching people? And I said, what? Can we even do that?
You're right.
OptiMatch was born, Om.app. So if any of you are listening and want to try it, totally free, you can go to om.app/survey. And anybody out there can go ahead and try om.app/survey. And so we started off testing it with patients and therapists. Obviously, we needed a data set to see the validity of, is there a there? Like, is this even legit or are we all just hallucinating, right?
Yeah.
So we started off for 8 months developing the questions, another year and a half really rigorously testing it. We used Typeform to see whether there was enough variability among the answers and what the results were, and then we tracked how well the matches went. And we got to about an 87% satisfaction rate matching patients and therapists to start, and those coaches and those they worked with. And it was really amazing. I was actually just having lunch with a friend today in Austin who was kind of bragging for us about it. She's like, oh my God, I got matched with two therapists during that time, and it was life-changing who we had matched her with using our algorithm. And then businesses started wanting to use it. And they're like, well, we want to use it for leadership teams and better team alignments. And now, the thing I was just sharing with you before we hopped on here is that we've had people begging us from day one to do this in romance. So if anybody wants to give it a try, you can go to soul, Soul, meet, MEET, love, LOVE. And it's totally early beta. Literally, this is the first time I'm publicly even sharing it right now. So be patient with us as we go through this process. But our dream is to be the world's best matchmakers. And I think, as I shared with you, my dream is to be the fairy godmother of human connection. I want people around the world to have a deep, meaningful relationship with themselves, others, and their purpose. And that's what life is about.
So much. It's funny when you say you see it as a fun game. I think about that too more and more as I continue to progress in life. Whenever I meet people, I'm always just like in the back of my mind, I'm just like hearing what they're saying. I usually ask them something around vision because that's just the thing that I'm so lit up about. And then I hear them talking about they're doing this or they're building this, or I'm just immediately like, who can I connect them with? Who can I connect them with? And it's fun. Like it's really cool to see like when people really align with others. Like when people are very aligned with who they are, where they're going, and then they align with other people that are on that same wavelength. it's just really cool to see. And I feel like when we're all in our lanes running, that's when this world is a beautiful place. I think it's when people are outside of their lane trying to do different things, hanging around with people that aren't the most aligned with them, and that's where the dissonance comes from.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Like the lunch I was at today, I was with a friend of mine, a new friend, and it's funny, she and I matched at an event. I was at an event in Arizona and we were using our software to match people at the event. And she was one of my best matches, and we hit it off and we're like soul sisters. So I
Yeah.
always tell people, like, imagine a world where you don't have to wait to see how it's going to work out. Is it the right romantic partner, the right business partner, where we can predictively tell you that. And so I loved her and already knew that. And she introduced me to her husband, an investor friend of hers, another person. So everybody's answering the matching questions at the table in real time. And we all matched well. It was like no surprise. It's like we're all sitting there, 3 hours of deep conversations. And shocker, we all matched perfectly according to our algorithm.
Ah, that's so good. It must be so fun to like see your algorithms working so well. And I was just kind of reflecting on your your business partner talking about how, hey, let's build your your intuition into an algorithm. That sounds pretty wild at first, but I mean, the more I venture into tech, I'm like, yeah, that's of course that would work. I mean, tech is pretty amazing. And it's interesting how, from my perspective, it even like AI and like ChatGPT, I kind of view it as our subconscious minds
Hmm.
because it's just like you feed it so much data, and then based on the data, then it basically course corrects. And like with AI, like it actually talks to you and feeds it back to you. But it's the same thing with our subconscious. We feed it enough data. That's how our life continues to evolve. So I find some pretty interesting correlations between the two. And I even made a YouTube video a while back about how ChatGPT reprogrammed my subconscious mind. And I thought it was kind of just clickbaity at first, but then once I made the video, I was like, oh, this is actually real.
Yeah, I wrote an article similar to that lately where I write a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn called Inspired Living Tools. And one day I was sitting having dinner. Often my husband and I will sit, we have date night every Friday night when I'm home, and we'll sit and like I get like downloads of like articles and things just come to me when we'll be having our Friday conversation. And one day it dawned on me that one of my dear friends who passed away, Dr. Mark Golston, who was like a second dad to me, was this prolific thought leader. And before he passed, he had had a Delphi like AI copy of him made, right? But he also would tell me he was profound. I mean, wrote many best-selling books. Larry King was one of his mentors and advisors. And so he had this thing he called the Dead Mentors Society, right? Where he would tell me how he'd sit quietly and he'd imagine all of his mentors who were deceased, and he'd have like these board meetings and conversations with them, even though they were no longer here. Now, when Mark passed away, this was before AI had really become as emergent as it is right now. So fast forward, what's crazy is that we can get advice from AI right now in the same way that Mark got advice from his dead mentors. And so the parallels that dawned on me, I was like, wow, what if AI is kind of like our deceased relatives and people that we're getting mentorship from, to your point of it being like our subconscious?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Think and Grow Rich pops in my mind as you're talking about
Of
that.
course, yeah.
When I think it was yesterday, I was talking with somebody. Yeah, I had him on a podcast, shout out Austin Netzley. And we're talking about like communicating with your future self, right? You could just like, give it the prompts. Hey, I want you to act as if you're my future highest self and let's have a conversation. But even now, what's popping through, it could even be like your inner child too. Like you could go back and you go back to your old self and you can go to, your future highest self or your dead mentors. It's like, oh man, there's definitely an intelligence around it. Like no pun intended.
Yeah, it's so good. I was trying to see if I had it. Oh, psychological profile analysis. You might have seen it today in the Jennifer Hill Tribe group you're a part of. Did you
Okay.
see the prompt that B put in there?
I
It
didn't.
blew all of our minds. I'll see like 100 new messages. We're both part of the same group. So our friend B had put in there today a prompt that I encourage us all to do. Here's the prompt. You are a CIA trained intelligence analyst specializing in psychological profiling. Your task is to build a comprehensive dossier on me based on everything I've ever typed into this chat interface. Analyze my language patterns, interest, emotional tone, values, motivation, personality traits, political leanings, potential vulnerabilities. Present your findings as if this is a classified psychological report being reviewed by senior intelligence officers. Use a formal tone and break the report into sections such as behavioral patterns, cognitive profile, emotional disposition, risk factors, and predictive tendencies. Be thorough and insightful. At the end, include a one-paragraph summary of my most likely future behavior based on the data you gathered. Mind blown. So
Ooh.
put that in Chat GPT. But it's like that to your point. It's like you can ask it inner child, you can ask it future self, you can ask it like in mine, it was interesting what it said. Like it was all very beautiful and positive, but then you have it write down like how could people manipulate you? How could they use this negatively? And
Ooh.
then it even tells you about your potential tendencies. So I love all this stuff. It can be used for good. It's all about the consciousness with which we choose to use things.
It's so good. Wow, I'm really excited to test out that prompt. And I found one the other day that I started playing with, and I sent it to a few friends. I can send it to you, or I
I would love that. Or to the
now-
group. Yeah.
yeah, now that that thread is open, of dropping cool prompts. But it was uh basically what I'm remembering is that it was asking basically what your masks are. So like masks and blind spots and things that like where you're like kind of those, what we were talking about before, like where am I not taking responsibility or where am I not showing up in love? And it was pretty interesting. And coming back to this whole conversation about awareness, like it's just about bringing more awareness so that we can be more whole and complete. Because once and I think that's probably the thing that's like really sinking in for me is that AI is helping us become more aware and therefore more conscious and therefore more loving.
And better communicators. I taught a class on ChatGPT back when it first came out a couple of years ago on how to be effective at using it. And one of the things I would teach in that class is that ChatGPT and AI in general is teaching us to be better communicators. Because if you're a shitty communicator and you communicate with your employee, right? And you say, Bob, I need this by tomorrow at 2, and here are the parameters, and Bob doesn't do it, then you're like, oh, well, it's Bob's fault because he really sucked, right? But if you tell ChatGPT, I need this and I need it done in this way, it's going to reflect back to you how clear your communication is. Its
Yeah.
response is only as good as your prompt, and I think that's analogous to us as human beings. How we communicate effectively or ineffectively is only as good as our prompts that we're offering.
Speak my language. I was at an event recently and I asked, because I've been hearing this quite a bit lately, because I continue to ask, like, who are the people that are going to continue to stay above the curve and stay on top of everything? And the thing that I keep hearing is the people that are the most curious, the people that are just constantly in the learner's mindset and constantly dropping the ego, not feeling like they have it all figured out. And it really excites me because, like, what you're saying is, I've always been a really curious person for whatever reason. And I love asking questions, and probably why I'm very drawn to running a podcast. But, I think that's why I've really had a lot of fun with ChatGPT. And I feel like it helped me so much. And it's made me a smarter, more conscious, more loving, more compassionate, more aware person, is because I prompt it really well because of the fact that I just get very, very curious about it.
Yeah, and a quick little side note about that is one of the things that I was just on a call with a friend of mine who's part of our mastermind who taught an AI class to all of us in the mastermind is he was talking about the power of using the voice text feature. So I don't know if you use that, but that's the only way I communicate with my GPT.
Okay.
It's that I only do it via the little microphone function because it can hear resonance and it can hear tone and it can learn your voice. So it makes more authentic articles. So for like 6 months now, I've only been communicating it with voice.
Okay. I love that. Quick side note on that. Have you ever felt like it cuts you off?
Never. No, because what it does is there's a very simple little record button and you can just talk to it and it records and then it posts it in there. But when you record it, it records your tone and everything.
Yeah, I've used it a little bit, and then I was even having some of my clients use because we take people through a prompt. We've created a custom GPT for the Vision Espresso, and I was walking him through it, and he kept getting cut off by the voice feature, and he started getting frustrated with it. So I was just curious if you've ever had that. Sounds like not.
No, I've literally never once had that. And I can't help but wonder, we're all having a choose your own adventure experience.
Yeah.
Like whoever is probably going through that, for some reason, part of their adventure is to learn to overcome that. Just like some people have financial difficulties, some people have romantic difficulties, some people have health difficulties. It's all a metaphor, right? Like, so ChatGPT and how it responds to you or engages with you is probably a metaphor for other areas of your life. Like if that's something that happens, I would ask that person, where do you find yourself getting cut off? Because maybe that's a metaphor for something they're meant to learn in another way.
Hmm. I'd have to imagine too, like you are very just quick and sharp with everything. And the thing where he was getting cut off, where we'd be asking questions of like, what's your 1 year vision? And he'd be like answering it. And then he'd be like, and he'd like pause for a little bit. And then that's when it would take over. I thought it was done. He was done talking.
Oh, I get it. That's a very fair point. Yeah, because yes, as you said, I do tend to think and talk very quickly.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. My people. So tell us more about um, how you've built your network. I want to hear a little bit more about that. Like beyond just like being the ultimate godmother connector. How do you like where do you meet people like Gio? He's such an amazing human being. Shout out Gio. We're both going out to Top Secret and Destiny Fest. So excited to meet you in person. But like I'm like when I met you and then started meeting Gio and then like all these other people, I'm so excited to go out there because it's like I feel so aligned with you guys. I'm so excited to spend time with you. Tell me more about like how you started meeting people like that.
Yeah, it's a great question. Shout out to Genevieve, a friend of mine who I know through Baby Bathwater. She was living in Lisbon and she had invited me to his last Top Secret event at the end of January in Miami. And I had so many friends that were going, like literally every other call I was on there, like, are you going to Gio's Top Secret event? I'm like, shoot, it sounds so good. But I had so much other travel that month, I couldn't make it happen. So Genevieve had introduced me after that. And Gio and I got on our first call and we're like, oh, we're best friends. Yeah, it's great to meet you. Like this happens to me often where I'll just meet people and I'm like, oh, you're my, like a guy I was having lunch with today. I was like, oh, you're my new best friend. He's like, yeah, you're my new best friend. Like
Yeah.
it's just, but this is the secret. The secret is to some extent where you go and where you invest your energy and attention. Though the bigger secret, I would say, is something I call the golden triangle of connection on this, Nico. And what that is deep connection to self, which is the bottom left corner of the triangle, allows for deep connection to others, bottom right corner of the triangle, which allows for deep connection to purpose, which is the top of the triangle.
Mm.
Why does this matter? Because imagine that I pay $10,000 to go to an event, or like, and I have, and also investing money in being around like-minded, high-value, curated people is key. But
Yeah.
if I show up to any one of these events, it doesn't matter how curated, how powerful and incredible the people in that group are. If I don't show up clean and I'm looking to take energy and I'm like, if I'm needy, if I'm selfish, if I'm salesy, and I've been all of those things, and there are parts of me that are still there that they just don't emerge as often. But because I spend these 2 hours in prayer, meditation, reflection, self connection, inner child work, journaling, I don't need anything from anyone. I love my husband to pieces. I love my friends to pieces. I love everybody in our tribe and my business partners, but I don't need them in the same way other people do because I love myself, I accept myself, and I cherish myself. And if I show up as whole, complete, and perfect, then I can acknowledge the perfect completion, the wholeness of you, Nico, or of Mary, or of anybody I meet. And then it's two whole human beings interacting with each other. And I tell people, you become the sexiest person alive. Like, whether it's romantic, whether it's like people wanting to do business with you, because you're not trying to take anything. I get a lot of offers from people who want to collaborate and do business and build masterminds. Like every week, I'm getting new offers for collaboration. And it's not, I don't mean that in a braggy sense. I just mean it in a sense of, I don't need it, so it comes because I'm already whole and complete. Like I already love myself, cherish myself. I don't need validation from a podcast. I'm doing this for the joy of being with you. It's not like,
Mm.
oh, an agenda. I need you guys to go do this. No, you use the software, cool, check it out. If not, no worries. Like my only intention is that everybody who's listening gets one nugget of value out of this. But I'm showing up clear, like just for the joy of it.
Oh, that's so good. So amazing. And it's the most interesting thing. Because like when I was younger, and again, still navigating and always opportunities for growth. But it was like when I was the most needy, is like that's when I wanted the things the most. And then when you release all that and you're not needy and you don't need anything, you're full, whole, and complete in yourself, that's when all the things actually come and you don't care as much.
Yeah.
It's quite the trip.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like people just want to give to you and play with you and dance in the sandbox of consciousness with you. And years ago, I mean, and again, I do, in fairness, I'm going to tell one on myself here. If I have not slept my solid 8 to 10 hours, if I've gotten like 4 or 5 hours sleep, that's when I notice the neediness creeps back in. That's when I notice
Mm,
the need for validation because all of a sudden my battery is not at 100%. When your battery, that's your capacity to be whole, complete, and full, then there's great, I can go on for days. But if I am not at 100%, then I have to catch myself because that's where I might take something personally where it wasn't personal. Like the other day, something so silly happened. I think it was yesterday at the airport with my husband and I were on a call, and I was sharing something with him. And again, I'd gotten 4 hours of sleep because of getting up early to get the flight. And I didn't get a fight with him or anything, but I got like a little, like I just
yeah.
got a little irritated and annoyed by something and took it personally, where 99% of the time it's like water off a duck's back, right? Like no big deal. But
Mm,
in that particular case, I noticed I got triggered. And that's the word I would use, is that we get more triggerable when we have space. The more space we have, it's more like there's room for people to kind of like dig.
mm. Yeah, I mean the thing that I'm hearing, it's such great confirmation is just take care of yourself. Like you said, show up with your words, show up clean with good energy, and that's why those practices are so important. And we sort of follow, coming full circle to where we started this conversation. It's like that's why your practice is so important to have that deep connection with self, to do the inner child work, to do the journaling, to do the meditation, the vision work, whatever it is, like whatever your practice is, that's so important. And that's why, like, gosh, it, I've had people say stuff about it, like, oh, you're like a really disciplined person. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but like, do you also call the person brushing their teeth every day disciplined?
Yeah,
Or is it
it's like
just a
we
habit?
sacrifice. We have, if you want to know what you're committed to, look at what you have. That's a quote from one of my best teachers ever. I'm going to say it again because some of you might get pissed from this, but sit with it. If you want to know what you're committed to, look at what you have. And so if we have something we're not committed to, like a frustrating relationship or a job, etc., then perhaps, I'm just saying, sit with me on this. Let's imagine that you have a job. You're listening to this right now. How dare you, Jennifer? I don't want this shitty 40K a year job and a crappy boss, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Challenge on that. What if, imagine that maybe you were made fun of as a kid, or you had an abusive parent verbally, mentally, psychologically, whatever it was, physically, and you developed a story when you were a little boy, little girl, or they or them, that you weren't good enough, that you're not enough. Well, our job as humans, Nico, is to prove ourselves right. So what are we going to do?
Mhm.
We're going to attract the partner. I was that person. I attracted my ex-husband, who I love and adore. He was amazing, also verbally abusive to me. I was no cakewalk either on my end. I hadn't done the work. We grew together, but it's because I grew up in a verbally abusive household. My dad was verbally abusive. So what did I do? I wanted to replicate that obviously not at a conscious level. Nobody says, I'm going to put on this dating app. I would love to find somebody verbally and emotionally abusive. That would be fantastic. Please sign me up for that. No, we don't say that at a conscious level, but at a subconscious level, we're programmed that way. So if you want to know what you're committed to, look at what you have and then ask yourself, what choices could I make that would be different than the choices I've made before?
Mm, gosh, that's powerful. Ultimate, it comes back to ultimate responsibility, personal responsibility, and just yeah. I remember my grandmother. She's amazing. She's turning 95 in July.
Oh,
She always says that, or always, but she said this at one point. She said everyone is responsible for their life, and only the successful ones admit it.
I know it's true. Like I haven't had my share of shame, blame, guilt. Like, I've had bulimia, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, been a recovering asshole to people. Like, I was a huge dick. Like, some of the stuff if I told you, you'd be like, really? And people, but I've done it all. And it's like, can I still laugh about it and have compassion for those parts of ourselves and not judge it and understand when we see it in somebody else? That's the thing. For me, one of my greatest opportunities for growth is if I notice something in someone else, can I just be with it? Not everybody wants to change. It's not about trying to change anything or anyone. It's about doing the inner work on ourselves, and then our world begins to change. The people we're around, the jobs we choose, the people we work with, that begins to reflect our inner world. Our outer world becomes a reflection, like you said earlier, of our inner world.
Yeah. It's so true. It's like it's for me it's like been nuanced too, and it's like lately I've been meeting so many more cool people just like you. I mean, it's just like been a constant evolution, but it just seems like it's getting more refined more and more. And it's pretty interesting because I've also been doing a lot more internal work myself. So it's like it's cool confirmation, but then if you ever start slipping up and going the opposite direction, you're like, okay. But like that's again, I think one of the biggest things, it comes back down to awareness, which is why our practice is so important. And then also now what we talked about with AI is like it's so powerful to use that stuff to help you gain more awareness on yourself.
Yeah, and it's, as you said, it's not about perfection. I think any of us who are trying to be perfect, it's not about that. There are going to be days where you're going to be tired, angry, sad, whatever. That's why I do the inner child work, is I'll often pause and I do it at the end of my meditative practice. And I'll say, how are you feeling today? Like I'll talk to my little inner girl, I'll say, how are you feeling? What do you need? And I am utterly shocked sometimes, Nico, because she'll be like, I'm sad. And I'm like, what? 44-year-old Jennifer is not sad. What is 5-year-old Jennifer sad about? And it turns out something happened that at the conscious level I wasn't aware of. And then as I deep dive into that, it's like, okay. And don't try to short circuit it. If you are feeling feelings, choose how long you want to feel them for.
Huh.
Be be the cause of your emotions, not the effect of them. So if I am feeling sad, then I might choose to watch a sad movie and cry, or I might choose to listen to sad music and journal. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to choose to be sad for an hour or 2 hours, but I'm choosing it rather than letting it choose me. I choose it, and I choose how long until I process it.
Yeah, always comes back down to a choice.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been such a great conversation. I really always appreciate our time that we've had together already.
Too, Nico. I just can't wait to hug you in person in Austin and
Yeah.
get to have more quality time together. And that's it, is like, what if we could all live the life of our dreams? I remember there was a quote I used to know, I think it was Howard Thurman, who said, don't ask the self, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go and do that. Because what
Mhm.
this world needs is people who have come alive.
Ooh, that's a mic drop right there. Well, cool, Jennifer. Is there anything else that you want to share? Any last words that you want to impart on the viewers, or any asks that you have? Or I know you're full, whole, and complete, but yeah, any way that we can support you, we'd love to know.
Oh, thank you so much, Nico. Well, let's see. First, if anybody wants to connect again, I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you Google Jennifer K as in Kite Hill, you'll find all my information out there. Invite you. You can check out the YouTube channel I have, Jennifer K Hill, and would love to have you check out Super Connections. You'll be able to find Nico's episode there, and those are just 15-minute, short, little, brief episodes that you can drop in and check out. In terms of any last messages for your viewers, your listeners, let me just see for a second here. Ah, it's so beautiful. What I heard was, there are miracles waiting for you. You just need to look for them. So I invite each of you out there, take a minute every day and see if you can begin to notice the little miracles. Like today, a beautiful one for me. I'm seeing a lot of friends in Austin, and it was supposed to rain all day, and I got to walk 3 miles. I think I got one Uber today for like 5 minutes, but I got to walk all day and enjoy the sunshine and seeing friends. So for me, those are all little micro miracles. And if you want to appreciate and receive the bigger miracles, Appreciate the micro miracles. Write down your miracles every day because you have more miracles than you've ever imagined just waiting for you. You just need to turn your head in the direction of them so you can appreciate them.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was an honor having you here and excited for Austin here soon.
Can't wait, my friend.